Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to Ahkam SOS, the show that discusses Islamic duties and practices. This is a live show. We'll be taking all your questions. If you have any questions you'd like to ask, please send them in via the WhatsApp number, and the QR code should be there somewhere later on during the show. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, you can put your questions in the comment section, and inshallah the technical team will forward them to myself, and inshallah myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer your questions. I'm your host Mohsin Shah, and joining me is Sheikh Ali Maash. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikhna.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
How are you doing this evening, Sheikh?
Alhamdulillah, fine.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Sheikhna, let us begin with looking at the Quran. Now the Quran tells us to, always be with the truthful people, or the truthful, I should say. But who are the truthful, Sheikhna?
أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على محمد وآله الطاهرين ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. In the Kitab al-Kafi by Al-Kulayni rahimahullah, he mentions a hadith, a man with the name of Burayd al-Ajli, one of the prominent ashab of the Imam alayhi salam. He asks Imam أبا جعفر الباقر عليه السلام. He says سألت أبا جعفر عليه السلام عن قول الله عز وجل, that he asks the meaning of this verse from the Imam al-Baqir or al-Sadiq عليه السلام. As we know, they go back to Ahl al-Bayt. But in this time he asking Imam al-Baqir عليه السلام. And of course we have to take our tafsir from Ahl al-Bayt عليه السلام when it comes to the Holy Quran, because they are the true interpreters of the Holy Quran, according to the narration of the Thaqalain, that the Prophet said that I leave two weighty or necessary things, the Book of Allah and my progeny.
Yes.
So the only individuals who know the meanings and the correct interpretations of the Holy Quran are Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam. You can't take it from anyone else, except to do with Arab or Arabic syntax and so forth. But as a meaning, as a misdaq of the ayah, you go to Ahl Bayt alayhim salam. So in this case, Burayd asks the Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam about the meaning of this holy verse. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. اتقوا الله وكونوا مع الصادقين. Surah At-Tawbah, ayah 119. He says, who are the Sadiqeen? Fear Allah Azza wa Jal, be pious, and be with the truthful. Who are the truthful? He asked the Imam alayhi salam. قال عليه السلام إيانا عنا. He meant us. The true truthful are Ahlul Bayt alayhim السلام. Because Allah Azza wa Jal, when He says that be with them, in other words, He means to follow them, to obey them, to believe in them as leaders of this world, as His rightly guided khulafa and caliphs. These are the rightly guided, the 12 Imam of Ahlul Bayt. The first is Imam Ali alayhi salam, and the last is Imam Mahdi Ajjallahu Farajahu Sharif. We have to be always with them, to follow them, to listen and obey their orders, their statements when it comes to the haram, to the wajib, and to have the correct aqeedah and belief in them as usul al-din and so forth. And of course, when the Quran says as-sadiqeen, it means those who are infallible, do not do any mistakes or wrongdoings. Otherwise, how could Allah Azza wa Jalla refer us back to individuals who might do mistakes? Then this is contradiction. Why? Because He says follow them, but on the other hand, for example, they make mistakes or even sin, na'udhu billah. So when Allah Azza wa Jalla refers us back to individuals who are always sadiq, it means they never lie, they never do anything wrong or mistake. It means that they are infallible and they are with the Quran. Ali ma'a al-Quran wal Quran ma'a Ali. They're all one in terms of the asma, infallibility. They're all one. As the Quran is ma'soom, the Imams also should be ma'soom. Because the Imam is the Quran al-Natiq, the speaking Quran. The Prophet is the speaking Quran. So you can't just stick with the book of Allah Azza wa Jal and leave the one who should interpret and explain the Holy Quran. You have to go back to those who ask those who know. فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ. We'll have inshallah this hadith later as well, the tafsir from Ahl Bayt alayhim salam. So conclusion that we must go back and ask those who are sadiq and truthful and do not do any mistakes and wrongdoings. Otherwise, to go back to those who do mistakes or wrongdoings, that would be conflicting with that Allah desired or wished for the people, that to be guided correctly, perfectly, without any issues.
Ahsan, Sheikhna. Sheikhna, what is the hukum if someone who's in the state of janaba doubts whether or not he has performed the ghusl, but is actually performing the salah or has performed the salah?
In this situation, with the doubt about if he has done or she has done the ghusl or not, the salah that they prayed just, let's say, a few hours ago or minutes ago, the salah is valid and fine, but for the next salah, they have to perform the ghusl for the forthcoming salah, because they prayed with certainty when they prayed. But now there's a doubt. So if there's a doubt, of course, you cannot pray when you have doubt in your tahara, purity. You must be certain when you pray that I'm in full state of tahara.
If one deliberately delays performing the salah until there is little time for him to perform wudu or ghusl, what would be his duty?
Indeed, for somebody who delays his salah deliberately and then you have no time to do, for example, ghusl or wudu, in this case, the one has committed a sin, disobedience, ma'asiyah, but that doesn't mean that he can't do any more tayammum, because if he does wudu or ghusl, then his salah will be out of time. The sunrise is just 3 minutes away from his wudu time. By the time he does wudu, 2 minutes wudu, for example, I don't know how many minutes it takes, 1.5 minutes, 2 minutes. By the time he says Allahu Akbar, the sun is now is rise. So basically, in this situation, the one basically should do the tayammum, and the tayammum is valid. But as I've said, he or she committed disobedience or ma'asiyah.
In tayammum as well, Sheikhna, because the hands are wiped and so is the forehead. Do they have to be free from najasa?
Yes, indeed. Again, the same conditions of the wudu. One must make sure that they have actually a pure positions or the places of the wudu, and the tayammum to be all pure and tahir. You can't do tayammum on najis, let's say face or palms and so forth.
Nice. From His Eminence, the Grand Ayatollah Sayyid Sa'id Hakim Rahmatullah Alayh, I work in a store as a cashier, and sometimes the customer pays more than the required amount and says, keep the change. Can I take the extra money for myself? What does the Sayyid, the late Sayyid, what does he say?
The Sayyid Rahimahullah, he mentions that if you understand from the customer that he wants to give this extra money for you as a staff, as an employee, it's for you, tips for you, for your hard work, for example, that's fine, you can take it. But if you understand that he wants to give it to the whole company or to the store or to the owners, of course, one should basically ask the permission from the store manager, for example, or shop manager. You can't take this extra money because it could be for the store and not for yourself.
Sheikhna, is it permissible to manipulate the embryo to determine its gender? Also, is it permissible to make it twin by medical means if it is possible? Very interesting question there, Sheikhna. So, first of all, I'm pregnant. I'm not pregnant, but obviously a female is pregnant. Can they manipulate the gender of the baby? Can they, make it two babies instead of one with technology and so forth that we have today?
Yes, indeed, it is permissible for what you've mentioned. One can do so. But what is not permissible and haram is to disable that fetus or to disfigure that fetus, which will result into تغيير خلق الله, altering the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal. That is what becomes haram in this case. So to change Allah's creation, let's say if this child, you do something that makes the child without any hands, for example, تغيير خلق الله, or the face, you change the face, and somehow to disfigure this fetus, of course, that would be not permissible.
Sheikh, what is the ruling if one touches the corpse of a child or a baby or even a miscarried fetus?
Yes, it becomes the ghusl of mayyit, مس الميت becomes wajib in this situation. If the child was miscarried, when completing the 4th month of the age of this fetus, because by the 4th time the ruh, or the soul, would be inserted into this child. Subhanallah, that by the 4th month this child will start moving and kicking his the stomach of his mother inside the womb. So in this case, if the child dies in this situation, of course the ghusl would be mandatory and wajib to perform on this child.
I see. It has become common in some countries that the women give gifts for the newborn in terms of money, gold, jewelry and such like. And the mother takes the gifts from them. In her turn, she gives those gifts to others on similar occasions. Is she allowed to give away what is belonging to her child to others?
No, it's not permissible. What has been given to the child is for the child. The gifts, the grants, I don't know, whatever has been given, income is for the child, and it's for the child. To be spent on the clothing of the child, food and drink, and so forth, and such like. But in anyhow, the father's permission is not really required, because this is the huquq and the rights of the child. So whatever he gets or she gets, if it's like a gold and jewelry, of course, it's for the female child, of course, not the owner, parents.
Sheikh, some questions coming in from YouTube. Inshallah, we'll answer them. Assalamu alaikum. Why is it forbidden to eat shark when it is considered to be a fish and it has scales? Number one, sharks don't have scales, I don't think.
No.
Secondly, sharks are also carnivores. They eat meat, and I think the ruling is that we do not eat carnivores. The meat that we eat is of animals who are vegetarian or herbivores that eat plants. They don't eat other meats. Sheikh, is that correct?
Yes, indeed. I mean, we have the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, which insist on the fact that you only can eat the fish which has scales. And definitely the shark and the dolphins and such like, they don't have any scales on their body. That is a must for the one to be able to eat that fish. And I've said before that the prawns are exceptions that are halal to be also consumed and eaten. So other than that,
sharks are predators, so we don't really eat predators. Another one from YouTube. Assalamu alaikum. Why is qawali not allowed and many restrict it in Jashan? Qawali, Sheikhna, is a form of you could say it's very popular in Pakistan. Actually, it's from that area. It's from the Indian South Asian continent. It is Sufi poetry mixed with drums and also other musical instruments, stringed and non-stringed and so forth. But the poetry praises the Ahlul Bayt, praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and so forth. Why is this considered haram?
We have in the narrations of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, where they are asked about the meanings of, for example, in this holy verse, وَالَّذِينَ هُمْ عَنِ اللَّغْوِ مُعْرَضُونَ, that those who avoid from the lagh, from saying vain talks or vain words. The Imam says it's ghina, singing songs. The meaning of this ayah. So that's what we prevent from listening to the songs. Even if somebody brings names of Ahlul Bayt to Allah, that makes it even worse, because you're actually breaching the sanctity of this holy names by joining them with the haram instruments and with the haram singings and so forth. So one should avoid adding any types of music when there's dhikr of Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam, or the Holy Quran as well.
Fair enough. From WhatsApp, Assalamu alaikum. Can I consume a food item that specifies that the gelatin is beef or fish, but doesn't specify whether it is halal or not? So I find a product on the back it says beef gelatin. Am I allowed to eat that product, or do I need to look for the halal sticker?
Well, number one, you have to see if it's from a Muslim country. So let's say from Turkey all the way to Iraq, Iran, and all the way to Pakistan, for example. It's made in one of these Muslim countries, then it should be fine, halal to consume. But if they're made in the West, in Europe, for example, and it says beef, one must avoid such food because usually the beef is not slaughtered according to Islamic halal way.
I see.
So they have to basically avoid eating such gelatin products if it's made in the West. So yeah, basically they have to avoid, and unless there's alternative like vegetarian, which should be fine.
Sheikh, we're going to go to a short break. Join us after the break as we continue our discussion here on Ahkam SOS.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of scholars at home.
Is it permissible to plant trees by or
Was
over
Islam
the
established based on peace and
Is it
non-violence?
permissible to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it
individuals?
permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there
countries?
an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures
Is
of
it
scholars at
permissible to
home.
plant trees by or
Was
over
Islam
the graves?
established based on peace
Is
and
it permissible
non-violence?
to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it
individuals?
permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there
countries?
an issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on ahkamsos@imamhussein.tv.
Yes, this is a live show. We do take in all your questions. If you have any questions you'd like to ask on any topic whatsoever, please send them in via the WhatsApp number. You've got the QR code there as well. I think it's just gone now. And you can call into the studio if you like, 0203 515 0199. We'd love to hear from you. If you're watching on Facebook Live or you're watching on YouTube, please send in your questions on the comment section, and inshallah, myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer your questions. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum.
Sheikh, we're getting questions coming in from our viewers. We're still getting loads more coming in. Please, is vegan kosher in ice cream halal? Sheikh, kosher is sometimes others would say it's more strict than halal, the kosher diet. The kosher fishes are similar to us, where we only eat fish with scales. They also eat fish with scales, and they don't eat prawns. They don't consider prawns to be a fish with scales. Furthermore, they have other kosher things, for example, like lettuce and so forth, where they look at is there any insects and so forth in the lettuce. One would argue it's a lot more strict than the halal diet. Now, this person has asked, vegan kosher in ice cream halal. So I'm assuming that they're saying that if an ice cream is vegan, or if ice cream is kosher, or if the ice cream is considered vegan and kosher, are you allowed to consume it?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. What is important that you have to make sure that there's no animal fat or parts in that particular food, or let's say alcohol, for example. I mean, when animals, let's say beef fat or the sheep's fat, for example.
I mean, with ice cream, hardly ever is.
I mean,
it's
just-
mainly
just
cream,
sometimes
milk,
they have chocolates,
sugar.
caramels.
Yes, marshmallow.
Exactly. So one
things like that. Yeah,
make
yeah,
sure
you're right.
that there's no such thing.
The flavour that they add on. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. From YouTube, Sheikhna, is Petra the real Qibla? Sheikhna, Petra is in Jordan, very famous for the Valley of the Kings. Was used, I think, in Indiana Jones, the last one, the Last Crusade, I think it was called. So you've got like, it's like it's carved into the mountain, old relics and so forth. Here the person was asking, is Petra the real Qibla?
No, the real Qibla is Kaaba, as we know. Of course, the first Qibla was in Palestine,
Yeah,
Bayt al-Maqdis, and
the
then
Dome
moved
of the Rock.
towards the Mecca. and that's the second qibla of the
Al
Muslims,
Aqsa.
and the permanent qibla, of
Mhm.
course, would be for the Muslims.
Yeah.
So there's no such qibla in Petra.
In Petra. Ahsant. Sheikh, a question here from a brother. I'm not going to mention the name even though it's here. Assalamu alaikum, brothers. Alaikum salam. I have pronounced 3 talaqs in one sitting to my Sunni wife. We have reconciled in 1 month. The problem is her mother says the talaq is valid as per Sunni Sharia. I told her triple talaq was not valid during Rasulullah's era sallallahu alaihi wasallam and was invented by Umar, so as per Sunnah the nikah is still valid. I need you, the Mulana, to guide my mother-in-law, explaining to her that triple talaq in one sitting was not considered during Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's period. If she follows Umar, then it's valid. So the question is, question 1, was triple talaq, the 3 talaqs in one sitting, valid during Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's era? When was triple talaq invented in one sitting? Who invented triple talaq in one sitting? So let's go through them, Sheikh, now one by one. So the first question is, if I was to say talaq, talaq, talaq to my wife at the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, does that mean that my nikah is now void and cancelled?
You see, the prophetic sunnah when it comes to the divorce or the marriage is that when it comes to divorce, you must have 2 witnesses, number 1, to be able to pronounce the talaq. Number 2, it will be once in that one session, it will be 1 talaq only and not 3 talaqs. Number 3, the woman or the wife must be in a state of purity in which she had no intercourse with the husband in that month. Number 4, she must be not in her cycle when the talaq has been pronounced. Many conditions are involved. This is the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, in which you have to have 2 witnesses. They have to be just and udul.
Yes.
Otherwise, the talaq would be not valid. It's batil talaq, a bid'i talaq, in other words. In the time of Umar, many things were innovated and made mukhalifatan lis-sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. So we have to follow the prophetic sunnah when it comes to the talaq.
Shaykhna, I mean, could you answer the other 2 as well? When was the triple talaq invented? Who invented the triple talaq? Was this...
As I've said, in the time of Umar, he has many of these ahkam, sadly. Mut'atan, that he prevented people from performing mut'at al-nisa and mut'at al-hajj. And he said, وَأَنَا عَاقِبْ عَلَيْهِمْ, I would punish for the one who performed this mut'ah when they were halal in the time of the Prophet. So he called himself as the Khalifa of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he changes the rules and legislations as he likes, and it suits him and his power. So we have to go back to Rasulullah sunnah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and follow his sunnah, so that we will be saved on the day of judgment. Otherwise, we're going to be na'udhu billah, losing on that great day.
Indeed.
We have to stick to Kitabullah wa itrati ahli bayti. The hadith did not say, I leave Kitabullah and my companions at all. There's no such thing at all in any book of the Ahl Islam, that Kitabullah wa sahabati at all. It says Ahl Bayti. So they have to go back to Ahl Bayt alayhim salam to find the right way of marriage and divorce.
Inshallah. From YouTube, Shaykhna. Sheikh, is it permissible to recite every time Surah Al-Fatiha and Tawheed on our wajib prayers without changing Surah Al-Tawheed?
Yeah, you can. You can stick to Surah Tawheed every time for every salah. That's fine.
Oh, in every rak'ah?
Yeah, you can. You can stick. That's fine. But it's mentioned as mustahab to recite Surah Inna Anzalna, for example, Surah Al-Qadr, and so forth.
Fair enough. More questions coming in from YouTube, Shaykhna. Assalamu alaikum, Shaykhna. How can we analyze and learn about Usul al-Din in the best way?
And the best way is to go back to the books of the ulama, where they have published some books which is known as Islamic belief or Usul al-Din. There are brief ones. I think if you go back to the Risala Amali of your Marji', the Islamic law book of your marja, if you're alim, they have sometimes in the beginning usul al-din, furu' al-din, and so forth. So just revise briefly the usul al-din.
Nice. From YouTube, Assalamu alaikum. What is your take on ikhbariya? Very good question. So ikhbariya, or the akhbari movement, I believe, where they only depend upon Quran and Hadith. They don't really take into consideration ijma and aql. Arguably, maybe they don't even follow taqleed or our maraja system. Sheikhna, your opinion on your take on the ikhbariya?
You see, we have a hadith from one of the Ahl Bayt alayhim salam that علينا الأصول وعليكم التفريع أو الفروع. مضمون الحديث, I can't remember exactly the hadith, that we give you the general rules and you have to break it down. That's why the usuliyin came and they broke down the what Ahl Bayt said, and they produced ahkam and usul and awa'id fiqhiyya, basis of the fiqh, that this is najis, this is tahir, this is haram, this is wajib, and so forth, through these qawa'id that Ahl Bayt has set. And we have this from Sheikh al-Mufid, Sheikh al-Tusi, all the way, great ulama of Ahl Bayt alayhim salam, in which they served this religion and this great literature of the Shia of Ahl Bayt alayhim salam. There are differences in terms of some who came and they rejected some of these usul. That's their opinion. Ala kulli hal. We don't want to get into disputes or arguments with such issues. But in anyhow, we are following what have been for the past 14th century, from 12th century all the way, Sheikh al-Mufid and so on. We have the ulama in which we have following. So they have their own ulama as well, of course. They have their own hujjah. And Allah Azza wa Jal is the judge.
More questions coming in, Sheikhna, from YouTube. Sheikh, is it obligatory to visit the shrines of all our Imam alayhi salam, or only some of them?
You see, one of the huquq and the rights is to go and visit the Imam Ma'asum Salamullah alayhi. And the rewards that one gets as a result of this visit, a great result, that it's equal to a hajjah and umrah, for example, or 10 hajjah or 90 hajjah and umrah, and so forth. A great rewards. One shows his loyalty and respect toward this Imam alayhi salam. So one should do their best to visit and try to cut from their going to holidays on the seaside, Spain and other places, and spend some to visit your Imam alayhi salam, who was martyred, madloom. Salamullah alayhi.
Awesome. Sheikh, now we're going to go to a short break, inshallah. Join us after the break as we continue our discussion here on Ahkam SOS.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures of
Is it
scholars at
permissible to
home.
plant trees by or
What
over
Islam
the
establish
graves?
based on peace
Is
and
it
non-violence?
permissible to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it
individuals?
permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there an
countries?
issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on Ahkam SOS at imamhussein.tv.
I have a question regarding keeping pictures
Is
of
it
scholars at
permissible to
home.
plant trees by or
What
over
Islam
the
establish
graves?
based on peace
Is
and
it permissible
non-violence?
to collect donations for charity projects from
Is it
individuals?
permitted to consume canned food imported from non-Muslim
Is there an
countries?
issue for men looking at non-Muslim women?
To have your questions answered live, call in on +44 2035 150199 or WhatsApp us on +44 7415 092155. Alternatively, you can also email us on Ahkam SOS at imamhussein.tv.
Alaikum rahmatullah wa barakatuh. This is Ahkam SOS, answering your questions on any Islamic topic to do with Islamic law. You can ask in regards to marriage, business, traveling, prayer, any topic whatsoever. We don't need to know your name or where you're asking from. Just send in your question, inshallah. Myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer your questions. You can send your questions in via WhatsApp. You can, this QR code should be there somewhere, and you can send it in. You can call us 0203515099. If you want to call us internationally, just call the WhatsApp number, and inshallah, the technical team will be able to put you through. If you're watching on Facebook Live or on YouTube, put your questions in the comment section, and inshallah, myself and the Sheikh will be able to discuss and answer your questions. Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. Sheikh, more and more questions coming in from WhatsApp and YouTube. From WhatsApp, Assalamu alaikum. There is a type of lip product like lipstick called lip stain, which stains your lip for a few hours, up to a couple of days. Would wudu be valid with it on?
Basically, there's like a obstacle on the surface of
barrier.
A barrier on the surface of the lips, or let's say face, for example.
Stopping
And
the
that-
water from
yeah.
getting through.
You have to remove it for the wudu and ghusl. Yeah,
I see. What if it allows the water to go through? Then it's
should
okay?
be fine. Yeah.
Fair enough. From YouTube, Sheikhna, is it haram to play chess? What about the different versions of chess, like the Japanese shogi?
The chess is haram. We have narrations from Ahl Bayt alayhi salam that
Shatranj.
it's haram, absolutely haram. You can't
Okay.
play with it.
I see. Sheikhna, is it obligatory to give khums to the Sayyid? Can I give my khums instead to the poor? Okay, so not just the Sayyid, but let's say the Marja. So is it obligatory for me to give my khums money to the Marja that I follow? Or should I give it directly to the poor?
Well, initially you have to see, you need a permission from the marja to be able to give it to the
poor.
to the poor who is Sayyid, of course.
Okay.
Not other Sayyids. They have to be Sayyids. So you need a permission from the marja. He gives the permission. Usually they would give because the Sayyids are, mashallah, around the world, especially those who are poor and orphans, they need that support. Then of course you can give.
Sheikhna, question from YouTube here. Remember we were discussing Petra and the new Kaaba. Wasn't the Kaaba first in Petra? Wasn't Kaaba moved to Mecca by Abdullah ibn al-Zubayr? I have never heard anything like this whatsoever.
It's mentioned in the history that one of the على كل حال, rulers, I'm not sure if it's Abbasi or Amawi or Zubayri, who made his own Kaaba in that city, yes,
Oh, in Petra.
to attract people and Muslims from going to the Kaaba. That's his own Kaaba version, but he failed, of course.
Because, let's, Sheikhna, a little history lesson. The Kaaba itself was arguably first, I think it was first built by Adam alayhi salam, and then rebuilt again by Hazrat Ibrahim and his son. And since then, people have been going towards Mecca to do tawaf around the Kaaba. And that has always been there in Mecca. Hence, the Prophet and Nabi Ismail and his generation were the custodians, and they looked after the Kaaba, giving Bani Hashim having the role of giving water to the pilgrims that would come, one of the most honorable roles. So it's always been there.
Exactly.
It's never been elsewhere or so forth. It's always been in that location. Sheikhna, I did ghusl al-janaba, but I'm not 100% sure I've done it correctly. Do I have to do ghusl again?
Did he actually do it? Did he have this doubt inside the ghusl? Outside the ghusl? That's the issue.
Doesn't say.
We have to see.
Okay, we'll come back to that one. From we've done the WhatsApp one. Another one from WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum. Are games like dice, like Ludo, halal without betting? Ludo, what's the snakes and ladders? They use dice.
If they're not gambling games, that's the rule. Then
I
they're
see.
halal. If it's gambling, that's haram. Like the cards, the chess, and so forth.
From WhatsApp. Assalamu alaikum. There's cosmetics that are halal. These are nail polishes, quality halal or water permeable products, and have been tested. If any such products are water permeable products, is it permissible to use and wudu and ghusl over it? Okay, Sheikh, I remember seeing this as well in Abu Dhabi and so forth. They have nail polish which is semi-permeable, so it's not. When the way they described it was that when they put it on the nail, when you look with a microscope, there's holes to allow water to actually go through it. It's not a full barrier. It's more like a gate or a fence with holes. So water still goes through the nail polish. Yeah, it'll maybe take a bit longer, but it does go through. Such items, which I also have halal, like a rating or certificate or logo on the products, are those okay to use, especially when it comes to wudu and ghusl?
I mean, we are not sure about these new products. One should ask the experts more. Anyhow, you have to make sure that the water reaches the skin when you do the ghusl or the wudu. That's very, very important. So if I apply, let's say, cream, Nivea cream, for example, and I know that the skin absorbs and takes the
Nivea
cream.
cream is quite thick, actually.
No, I think the Vaseline is an issue sometimes. But the Nivea, for example, it goes inside the skin. So even if you do the wudu, it reaches the skin.
Ah, I see.
If it's something like that, it should be fine. You know, it's just a cream, it goes absorbs inside the skin. Should be fine. But if it's something else, we have to see. I mean, we have to, you know, see talk to the experts with this regard to see how this works.
Fair enough, inshallah. Sheikh, let me just grab the other questions that are coming in from our viewers. Assalamu alaikum. It has become common in some countries that the women give gifts. Oh no, we did that one. If the girl is not a virgin, does the one still need the permission of the father?
If she is not virgin, no, she doesn't need any permission from the father. The condition was that if she's virgin, then of course she must ask the permission of her father for any type of marriages available, short or long term. But if she's, let's say, divorcee, then she can marry herself to whoever she finds suitable, and she doesn't need to go back to her father.
Fair enough. Question from YouTube, Sheikhna. Is plastic surgery halal? What about enlarging breasts or enlarging the buttocks or nose jobs or Botox on the face and so forth? Are these allowed?
The ulama say that it is, of course, there's no issue with it in terms of the halal and so forth. But the issue is, if it's on the face, some would go to the opinion that, well, if it's a beautification, if you consider as beautification, you know, nose job or let's say some lips job as well, they do on the cheeks, for example, that makes herself more beautiful. Then she must cover the face.
I see.
According to Ayatollah Sistani's representative in Najaf, as I mentioned before. But in anyhow, it is permissible if there's no harm and darar as a result of this operation.
I see. Sheikhna, thank you very much for all your hard work, all your research and so forth. And thank you to all the viewers for joining us on this episode of Ahkam SOS. I do apologize if I didn't answer your question, but those questions will be rolled over to Wednesday's episode, inshallah, here on Imam Hussein TV 3 at 7 p.m. Now, if you have a question that you'd like to ask, it can be on any topic whatsoever. It could be on traveling, it could be on food, it could be on inheritance, it could be on marriage, it could be on building, contract, business, buying, selling. Any aspect of your life that you require Islamic law, you can send in your questions to Ahkam SOS. We don't need to know your name or where you're asking from. If you have a question and you want the fatwa of a certain marja, we have contacts with the official offices and the official representatives of our maraja in Najaf and Qom and Karbala and so forth. So please just put in the question and you can put in the marja's name, and inshallah we'll go and do our research and get those answered for you. You can send your questions here on the WhatsApp number below. And inshallah, you can join us on the next episode here on Imam Hussein TV 3, Sky Channel 789, on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh.
As lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, we all have an inclination to the epitome of love. When we rejoice, when times are hard, whatever stage of life we are in, we all yearn to be in one special place. We all wish to visit the blessed shrine of Imam Hussein in the holy city of Karbala. Not all of us have the blessing to visit the shrine of Imam Hussein, but there is still a way to experience the sights and sound of the blessed land of Karbala in the comfort of your own homes.
We call upon you, dear viewers, to support us in our financial costs to help bring the Holy Land of Karbala beaming into your homes. You can support us with a monthly donation of just $50 or £30. We are your gateway to Karbala. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Imam Hussein TV 3.
أنا لا راتب ولا عندي معين ولا عندي ولد كبير، ما عندي أحد اللي يعيني، وعلى الله وعلى أخوتي. عيشتي حيل صعبة. جهالي يردون مثل عندهم مدارس، يردون مصارف، يردون من لبس، يردون أنا هذا كله ما عندي يعني ما أقدر أصرف. أنا هذا الشيء كله ما أقدر أصرفه، ومنين أجيب أنا؟ يعني أنا راتبي لحد الآن ما طلع، جاي أركض بالراتب، راتب ماكو. أنا لا أطلع ولا أمشي ولا أعرف أحد، وأنا غريبة بهالمنطقة، وأنا من أهالي البصرة. عندي 6، عندي 2 بنات و4 أولاد. لا هو حتى الله يرحمه كان يقول لي أنا زلمة ما قادر على عيشتي، شلون راح تنطفي عيني وشلون راح تعيشين هذول الجهال.
طبعا أنا هذه كل مرة بالدراجة وهو وياي ونضحك أنا وياه ونشاق أنا وياه.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In today's hadith of the day, I'm going to share with you a saying from our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him and his family, which is recorded in Biharul Anwar. The Holy Prophet advised, when making a decision to do something, think about its outcome. If it's good for you and for your advancement and development, then follow it. But if it is misleading, leave it out. Life is full of many ups and downs and many important decisions which must be made, many of which can be scary at times and make us uncertain. Here, the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, is giving us a very simple advice: to reflect on each decision we make and not to make decisions with haste. Much like many motivational speakers tell us today, the Prophet told us 1400 years ago that we should do things that help us advance in life and develop our character. And he tells us, if the decision will lead to detriment, not to do it. It may sound like simple advice, but in these hectic lives that we live in, it is a reminder to pause and reflect on decisions we make, however big and however small. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
With more and more victims of war and poverty, the Middle East has seen a surge in patients seeking medical aid. Iraq alone has 2.4 million people without access to any form of medical assistance. In Afghanistan, due to the lack of funding and devastating conflict, the health service is at breaking point. Imam Hussein Charity aims to help provide a better future for these impoverished patients, aiding them with finances for their prescriptions as well as dialysis of their kidneys. You can help our brothers and sisters with purchases of prescriptions for just £20, and for £200 help a patient with a dialysis procedure. To donate or for more information, visit www.imamhusseincharity.com.
Even death was not able to separate Abbas from Hussein, just as the haram of Abbas cannot be separated from the haram of Hussein, in the same way that Safa can never be separated from the mountain of Marwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the mountain of Safa and Marwa to be from the Sha'air Allah. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the haram of Abbas and the haram of Hussein to be Sha'air Allah al-Kubra. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed that between the haram of Abbas and the haram of Hussein, there is a land of Mawaddah, there is a land of Azar, there is a land of Ishq, there is a land of Junoon. This is the land of Bayn al-Haramain. So long as this haram of Abbas and the haram of Hussein remains, people until the day of judgment will beat their faces and chests shouting, Ya Abbas and Ya Hussein. The divine decree of Allah is that from the land of Bayn al-Haramain, every time a tear is shed for Hussein, a tear is shed for Abbas. It is the divine decree that from Bayn al-Haramain, so long as there is a chant Ya Hussein, it will be accompanied with a chant Ya Abbas. The decree of Allah is that Abbas can never be separated from Hussein.
As lovers of the Ahlul Bayt, we all have an inclination to the epitome of love. When we rejoice, when times are hard, whatever stage of life we are in, we all yearn to be in one special place. We all wish to visit the blessed shrine of Imam Hussein in the holy city of Karbala. Not all of us have the blessing to visit the shrine of Imam Hussein, but there is still a way to experience the sights and sound of the blessed land of Karbala in the comfort of your own homes.
We call upon you, dear viewers, to support us in our financial costs to help bring the Holy Land of Karbala beaming into your homes. You can support us with a monthly donation of just $50 or £30. We are your gateway to Karbala. Assalamu alaikum and welcome to Imam Hussein TV 3.
أنا لا راتب ولا عندي معين ولا عندي ولد كبير، ما عندي أحد اللي يعيني، وعلى الله وعلى أخوتي عيشتي حيل صعبة. جهالي يردون مثل عندهم مدارس، يردون مصارف، يردون من لبس، يردون أنا هذا كله ما عندي يعني ما أقدر أصرف. أنا هذا الشيء كله ما أقدر أصرفه، ومنين أجيب أنا؟ يعني أنا راتبي لحد الآن ما طلع، جاي أركض بالراتب، راتب ماكو. أنا لا أطلع ولا أمشي ولا أعرف أحد، وأنا غريبة بهالمنطقة، وأنا من أهالي البصرة. عندي 6، عندي 2 بنات و4 أولاد. لا هو حتى الله يرحمه كان يقول لي أنا الزلمة ما قادر على عيشتي، شلون راح تنطفي عيني وشلون راح تعيشين هذول الجهال.
طبعا أنا هذيك المرة بالدراجة وهو وياي ونضحك أنا وياه ونشاق أنا وياه.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In today's hadith of the day, I'm going to share with you a saying from our beloved Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him and his family, which is recorded in Biharul Anwar. The Holy Prophet advised, when making a decision to do something, think about its outcome. If it's good for you and for your advancement and development, then follow it. But if it is misleading, leave it out. Life is full of many ups and downs and many important decisions which must be made, many of which can be scary at times and make us uncertain. Here, the Prophet Muhammad, may peace and blessings be upon him, is giving us a very simple advice: to reflect on each decision we make and not to make decisions with haste. Much like many motivational speakers tell us today, the Prophet told us 1400 years ago that we should do things that help us advance in life and develop our character. And he tells us, if the decision will lead to detriment, not to do it. It may sound like simple advice, but in these hectic lives that we live in, it is a reminder to pause and reflect on decisions we make, however big and however small. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
With more and more victims of war and poverty, the Middle East has seen a surge in patients seeking medical aid. Iraq alone has 2.4 million people without access to any form of medical assistance. In Afghanistan, due to the lack of funding and devastating conflict, the health service is at breaking point. Imam Hussein Charity aims to help provide a better future for these impoverished patients, aiding them with finances for their prescriptions as well as dialysis of their kidneys. You can help our brothers and sisters with purchases of prescriptions for just £20, and for £200 help a patient with a dialysis procedure. To donate or for more information, visit www.imamhusseincharity.com.
Even death was not able to separate Abbas from Hussein, just as the haram of Abbas cannot be separated from the haram of Hussein, in the same way that Safa can never be separated from the mountain of Marwa. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the mountain of Safa and Marwa to be from the Sha'air Allah. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made the haram of Abbas and the haram of Hussein to be Sha'air Allah al-Kubra. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willed that between the haram of Abbas and the haram of Hussein, there is a land of Mawaddah, there is a land of Azar, there is a land of Ishq, there is a land of Junoon. This is the land of Bayn al-Haramain. So long as this haram of Abbas and the haram of Hussein remains, people until the day of judgment will beat their faces and chests shouting, Ya Abbas and Ya Hussein. The divine decree of Allah is that from the land of Bayn al-Haramain, every time a tear is shed for Hussein, a tear is shed for Abbas. It is the divine decree that from Bayn al-Haramain,
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear viewers, and welcome to the Honourables here on Imam Hussein TV, where we are talking and discussing about our holy personalities. And today we are talking about the leader of the women of Jannah, our mother, Sayyidah Fatima Salamullahi alayha. And we would like to extend our deepest of condolences to the holy Imam of our time, Imam Mahdi alayhi salam, and to you all on the shahadat of Sayyidah Fatima Salamullahi alayha. My name is Sister Sayyidah Mahdiya, and I'm joined by my co-host, Sister Zahira. Zahira, assalamu alaikum and welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So, Zahira, we know Sayyidah Fatima Salamullahi alayha, our mother, the greatest of ladies. And as we commemorate her shahadat, as we commemorate these days of Ayam Fatimiyya, why are these days so significant, these days of mourning? Let's just highlight to our viewers what these days of Ayam Fatimiyya actually are, and why perhaps in our communities do we have several dates that we commemorate? Why are there several dates of commemoration for her shahadat possibly?
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I guess we'll speak a little bit about why it's so important to mourn, but one of the reasons, and I suspect the main reason, we have so many differing dates and we don't have confirmation on one single day where Fatima Zahra left this world, is because the circumstances under which she passed away or she was martyred were very, very dire. And her relationship with, you could say, the political elite at the time, or her relationship with the Khulafa at the time was very strained. There was a lot of friction. She was very, very oppressed. Her, there's a lot that led up to her passing away, namely, approaching a house, threatening to set fire to it, leading to the miscarriage of the son of Imam Ali alayhi salam and Fatima Zahra, Muhsin, and according to some narration, she was 6 months pregnant at the time. So there was that, and then we had the whole issue about Fadak being taken away from her, even though it was given to her during the lifetime of the Prophet. It wasn't even an inheritance, and all that happened there. And understandably, in the lead up to her leaving this world, she had requested Imam Ali that she be buried at night in secret and that none of these people attend her funerals or pray over her. So given that there were very, very few people at her burial, it's understandable that not many people can work out, or not many people know exactly when she died. And to the point where, we even, to some degree, we don't know exactly where she's buried. So there's a whole mystery around those circumstances.
I mean, some people say Janatul Baki. Some people go even and say that she was buried in her own house, which then became a part of Masjid al-Nabawi later on. And, going back to how you said the political climate at that time, going back to Fadak, her powerful sermon about Fadak, going back to the oppression that Imam Ali alayhi salam faced after the death of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I mean, Imam Ali was, our first Imam, but he was the Imam that probably faced the most oppression in his life and after his martyrdom as well. And Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha, she not only was Imam Ali her husband, but he was the Imam of her time. And so she knew, I mean, going back to what you were saying about the door, the burning of the door, the shahadat of Hazrat Muhsin alayhi salam, she tried to protect Imam Ali. When Abu Bakr sent Umar to the house of Imam Ali and Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha, and they wanted Imam Ali to come out and pay allegiance, she was the one who stood there at the door trying to prevent them from coming in. And she was the one who said, she was the one who refused them entry, and she wanted them to leave them alone, because remember, our beloved Prophet, peace be upon him, had just passed away. So they were still mourning at this time. And then when they came to the house, they came, and we know that Umar had a very short temper. He was very aggressive. And he came with some of the other disbelievers at the time, and as they tried to come to the door, they set fire to the door, and that's when Sayyidah Fatima, and as they opened the door, that's when Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha was crushed between the door and the wall, and that's when Hazrat Muhsin became shaheed. But also, even after that, narrations tell us that as they entered the house, they obviously they had no respect for Sayyidah Fatima, they had no respect for Hassanain alayhi salam, they had no respect for Bibi Zainab and Bibi Kulthum. And we have to remember that these children were very young. They were young children. Sayyidah Kulthum, some narrations tell us that she was only 2 years old when Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha passed away. And so, they had no respect for the holy household. They came in, and even then, Sayyidah Fatima tried to prevent them and tried to become a barrier for her Imam of the time. And I think narrations tell us that she passed away sadly only 90 days or so after the death of her beloved father, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And those 90 days, she lived in pain, but she never once complained. She never once said that her ribs had been broken. She never once.
This is the thing that struck me. When I read that she was 6 months pregnant, that's quite far along in a pregnancy. Yes. You're pretty established pregnancy, and to miscarry in the way that she did, and to see what she saw happen to Imam Ali alayhi salam, to know that her children and her infant saw what they saw, on that day. Having been through all that and then to have to go and give this sermon about Fadak and to fight for your rights even after that, because once you lose a child, you think that's the ultimate oppression. Everything that could possibly be done to me has been done to me, but that wasn't it. There was the dispute over Fadak, and the fact that she had to go there, defend herself, give all these proofs, bring witnesses, all of this almost added insult to injury. And yeah, like you said, it's just till her last day, she was constantly fighting for her rights. She was oppressed, and it's no wonder she didn't want to see any of these people.
Yeah, I mean, actually, it just shows how strong a character Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha and is, and the perfect role model for us, and that filtered down to her two daughters, Sayyidah Zainab and Sayyidah Kulthum.
Yeah.
I mean, even before Fadak, you had the event of Saqifa, where the right of Imam Ali alayhi salam to be the successful leader, to be the right leader, to be the first Khalifa after Prophet Muhammad passed away, peace be upon him, after he passed away. You have the event of Saqifa that's taking place. As narrations tell us, as Prophet Muhammad is being prepared to be buried.
Yeah.
And you have people who were there at Ghadir, knowing very well that Imam Ali has been appointed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala through our beloved Prophet to be the rightful leader. Then you have Saqifa taking place, the right of Imam Ali being taken away at Saqifa. Then you have Fadak being stolen, and like you said, Fadak was a piece of land given to Bibi Fatima in the time of the Holy Prophet as a gift. And when you have Abu Bakr taking away that land, that piece of gift from Sayyidah Fatima, and at such a young age, we have to remember that at this young age she went through a lot in her lifetime, and she was only very young when she passed away. Some narrations tell us that maybe only 19, 20 years old when she passed away, and at this tender age to go through so much. I mean, if we compare ourselves at that age and we look at Sayyidah Fatima at that young age, to go through so much, to lose her father, for Imam Ali alayhi salam, her husband and the rightful leader, to be oppressed, to have the land stolen from her, and then she stands up for herself. She talks at such a young age about Fadak. These are such lessons in her life that we can draw into our life and that we should be able to learn for. And something else actually that strikes me about Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha is the day that she knew that she was going to return back to her Lord. She said to Asma, the lady in the house that would help, she said to Asma, I'm going into my chambers, I'm going into my room, and I will be reciting loudly at intervals. And when you don't hear me reciting anymore, assume that I have returned back to my Lord. But before that, she prepared food for Imam Hassan, Imam Hussein, because after all, she was a mother. And she didn't want to see her children coming home hungry. And she even said to Asma, feed my children before you tell them about me. But we know narrations tell us that they didn't eat without their mother. And something else that strikes me about Sayyidah Fatima is that when Imam Ali alayhi salam was giving ghusl to Sayyidah Fatima, now we know Imam Ali alayhi salam, the lion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the man who lifted the gates of Khaybar, he felt such pain and he broke down in tears when he was giving ghusl to Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha, because of the wounds on her body, because of the bruises on her ribs. And this is why, like you said, she was buried in the darkness of the night and only a few close family members and companions were present. And that's why nobody knows until the Imam of our time reappears, inshallah soon, where she is actually buried. But, we've spoken about Ayam Fatimiyya. We've spoken about perhaps why there are several dates. We've spoken about these days of mourning, the significance. Why then do you feel we need these days? I mean, we live in a climate right now which is very materialistic. perhaps our children are being, one could say, led on a different path. Why do we need these days of mourning, similar to why we need ziyarah in our life? Why do we need these days of mourning, do you think?
I think it's similar to, you know, when you know, the first 10 days of Muharram comes about, we almost feel like it's a rejuvenation of our faith. It's a reminder of what's truly important in this world. And it's a reminder of the sacrifices that the Ahlul Bayt have made. But most importantly, I think it's an ignition almost for our love for the Ahlul Bayt. You know, there are so many events throughout the calendar where Allah, I think, intentionally puts these things scattered through the year so that we can renew our love, we can renew our faith, we can renew our intentions and our allegiances. But even more than this, there is so much merit in mourning for the Ahlul Bayt. There is so much blessing in mourning for the Ahlul Bayt. We have some amazing narrations. I'll mention a couple. We have one narration that's narrated by Jabir ibn Abdullah al-Ansari, where he says he went to the 5th Imam alayhi salam, and he said to him, and I'm just paraphrasing here, these are not the exact words, but it's quite a lengthy hadith, so I'll kind of mention the main parts of it. But he says to the 5th Imam, you know, tell me something that will show us the merits of your grandmother Fatima, so that I can tell the Shia and they will rejoice. So Imam Baqir alayhi salam says to him that on the Day of Judgment, the Ahlul Bayt will, you know, enter paradise with such grandeur and such majesty, and there's so much detail in this narration. If anyone has the time to look at this, honestly, it's amazing to read, but I'm just going to quickly rush through it in the interest of time. So the narration mentions that, you know, all the prophets will enter, like they'll be approaching paradise, the gates of paradise on pulpits, but our prophet's pulpit will be the highest, and then he will deliver a speech. Then after he delivers a speech, all the successors will come on their pulpits, but Imam Ali will be the highest of them, so he will deliver a speech. Then all the children of these prophets will enter, and then Imam Hassan and Hussein alayhi salam will deliver speeches. And then Allah, you know, there's some other bits in the middle that happen. Then Allah says, "O people of the mahshar, lower your gaze or lower your heads, because Fatima is about to enter paradise." So the description is amazing in this, and I don't want to misquote it, but it's very, very glamorous, very majestic. She will enter on, I think, a she-camel that Angel Jibreel will bring, and the saddle will be made of coral and pearls and this and that, and angels, you know, 10,000 angels on this side, 10,000 angels on that side, or 100,000 even. And as she is about to enter paradise, the narration says she'll just glance to her side, and Allah will say, "O daughter of my beloved, why did you look to the side when you were about to enter paradise?" And she will say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, "Ya Allah, I wish my status to be realized on such a day." So Allah will tell her, "Go back and choose your followers and those who loved you and your progeny, and take them with you into paradise." So the narration says, and these are the words that are used, that she will go back and she will pick her followers just like a bird picks the good seeds from the bad seeds, and then she will she will take them with her to enter paradise. And as they're entering paradise, these people that she has chosen will also glance to the side. So Allah will tell them, "Why did you glance to the side as you were entering paradise?" And they will say, "Ya Allah, we wish our position was realized on such a day." So Allah will tell them, "You go back now and you pick anyone who loved you for your love of Fatima, who clothed you for your love of Fatima, who gave you a drink of water for the love of Fatima, who prevented riba being done about you because of your love of Fatima. Go back, take those people into paradise with you, and then they will enter paradise." And this, you know, I don't need to go any further. This depicts the status of Fatima Zahra in a nutshell. We have another hadith, or we have, you know, an account from Sayyid ibn Tawus. Sayyid ibn Tawus had such an amazing relationship with the Imam of our time that they met on several occasions, and he became so familiar with the Imam that he could recognize his voice without seeing him. So he says, I was in the shrine of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and I heard the Imam of our time praying to Allah, and he said, Ya Allah, have mercy on our Shia, because they were made from the remnants of the clay that you made us from, and they rejoice when we rejoice, and they are sad when we are sad. So if on the Day of Judgment there is any deficiency in their scales, take from our scales and put it into theirs. And again, there's so much emphasis on being happy when the Ahlul Bayt are happy, being sad when they are sad, and being in sync with them. And if we have any chance of living our life to an iota of theirs, then we need to be in sync with them. We need to be happy for what they're happy for. We need to be pleased with what they are pleased with. And likewise, we need to mourn when they are mourning.
I mean, that's a beautiful hadith, mashallah, and there's so many lessons that we can take from that, and our children hopefully can learn from a hadith like this. And going back to what you said, I mean, our beloved Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, has said that whoever displeases Fatima displeases me, and whoever displeases me displeases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So essentially, whoever Fatima is upset with, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is upset with. So it just shows the level that she has in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which is why she is the leader of all the women of Jannah. And we know that, you know, if we shed even one true tear for the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam, inshallah, that does gain us the shifa and the intercession on the day of resurrection. And that's what we all need, and that's what we all pray for, and that inshallah teaches our children as well. Because going back to the original question, this is a time where we live in where often our children, we can say, maybe perhaps are going astray. We have things, you know, on social. It's a challenging time. Social media is very rife. You just have to turn on social media for them to be led astray, perhaps sometimes. And so we need these days of mourning to bring us back to reality. What is actually true life? This life is very transient, and we are living for the next world. So if we are serving our Ahlul Bayt, if we are mourning on their days of Shahada, if we are feeling the pain that Hassanain alayhim as-salam felt, that Sayyidah Kulthum, Sayyidah Zainab felt on the Shahadat of their mother, then we are hopefully becoming closer to the Ahlul Bayt. And that draws us very nicely to some of the lessons that we can learn from Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha. I mean, there are numerous qualities that she had, so many that we cannot list them in the short time that we have here. But there are so many qualities that we can learn, and let's just touch upon some of the qualities that we can learn from her and how we can implement them into our lives and hopefully into the lives of our children as well.
Sure. So one of the things I think that's very rarely mentioned, but I remember someone mentioning it and I thought, oh my God, why have I not realized this before, is the self-awareness that Fatima Zahra had in terms of being able to communicate her needs. Because I feel in this day and age, or really I think it's not even just our generation, but just women in general throughout the ages, we've always had this issue of not being able to communicate when we're not able to cope, or when we need help. It's almost like not a martyr complex, but it's almost like we feel we don't have permission to say, I can't do this, or I need help, or I need support. And we know from the life of Fatima Zahra that there was a point where she was just so worked from just day-to-day life. She had very young kids in close succession. She had the house to look after. And she said to the Holy Prophet, I need something, I need help. And he gave her Tasbihat al-Zahra, which we all know about and we all recite day to day. And also she was given Lady Fidla to then help her with the household chores, and we're told they would alternate. So while one looked after the children, the other would do the housework and vice versa. And I always remind myself of this because, and you'll completely resonate with this, I'm sure, and all mums or anyone who's kind of looking after a family will resonate with this, where there are times where you simply cannot do it all, but we think we should be able to, and we think that I'm just not a good enough mum, or I'm not a good enough wife, or I'm not a good enough woman.
We often don't ask for help.
We don't ask for help because we think we should be able to do it all. And after I heard someone say this, I thought, now every time I feel overwhelmed or I'm very tired or whatever it is, when I'm at that point where I really need a break, I just remind myself that Fatima Zahra had the self-awareness. She took help as well. And so it's okay for us to do so too. You know, I always say I'm not better than Fatima Zahra, so if I need a break, it's fine, I'm human.
And actually, I mean, I use now that in my daily life, where if there is a point where you are struggling, and there are so many challenges as young mothers we face in our daily lives, that I will go towards my tasbih, recite salawat on Prophet Muhammad and his holy household, and recite the tasbih of Fatima Zahra salamullahi alayha, and the inner peace that it gives, and you just feel like your daily chores just become so much easier,
and you feel like everything will be okay,
and you feel like everything will be okay, and you have that faith because that you know that ultimately she is all our mother, and ultimately we live to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and our beloved Ahlul Bayt.
Absolutely.
And so by these kind of, these little gems, I'd like to call them, the little gems that we have in our life, in our religion that we're gifted with, it's a way of helping us forward.
Absolutely.
And just something else which I thought of is her charity. We know the emphasis of charity and how beneficial it is for our lives and our future, for our children, for our homes. And just a beautiful example of when Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha and Imam Ali alayhi salam gave charity, when we have the narration of when Hassanain alayhi salam were ill, and they fasted for 3 days, and on the first day, at the time of iftar, there was a knock on the door, and I believe there was an orphan, and they gave their food away to the orphan. On the second day, at the day of iftar, at the time of iftar, there was a second knock on the door, and I believe it was a beggar, a poor person, and again they gave their food away. And on the third day, at the time of iftar, I believe there